Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this was just supposed to be a regular how to use guide on Necrozma, but as I looked more and more into this Pokemon, things just started getting freaky. So let's see where everything went wrong and if we can even salvage this as a guide. So first off, normal Psychic Pokemon. That's not really that crazy, right? We just have Bug, Ghost, Dark weaknesses, and then we are resistant to Fighting and Psychic, just straight up Psychic stuff. Offensively, we're going to be immune by Dark, resisted by Psychic and Steel, and we have super effective hits against Fighting and Poison type Pokemon, with Poison types getting even stronger with the sheer amount of Fairy just love Game Freak gave to the 7th generation. A lot of Fairy type Pokemon out there, a lot of Poison type Pokemon also just there to try to stop them. This is going to be at least decent coverage against those kind of matchups. And then we hit the stats. This is where I just went, what is going on with, like, what are we looking at right here? What is this supposed to do? Because it's only a 600 base stat total, but I thought it was like the legendary Pokemon at the end of the game kind of idea. So that's why I'm just going to go and show, like, okay, so we have comparison Pokemon. We have Gardevoir. Gardevoir has a similar amount of special attack and even more speed than the Necrozma, so I don't understand where that came along. Espeon. Espeon has more special attack and much more speed than the Necrozma, so damage-wise, for legendary Pokemon, for whatever this thing's supposed to be, it's starting to drop off. Now, it does have a lot more tankiness, and I will talk about that, but then we can still make some other comparisons. You know, we have a lot of speed on Pokemon like Azelf with 125 special attack, 115 speed, and then we get into Giratina, the legendary Pokemon. This is what Necrozma should look like, right? That it's after the legendary Pokemon, that it's kind of a part of the in-game storyline, so you would expect it to have an over 600 base stat total, not a 600 base stat total. Does that make it a mythical Pokemon? Like, where does Necrozma's stats fall? It's just awkward. But I'd imagine that if it did have any more stats, then this Pokemon would be very terrifying, because if it's just a slow Pokemon with a lot of bulk, yeah, then we have a lot to worry about. And then the moveset's pretty good as well. We have Moonlight, Morning Sun, and then we also get Iron Defense and Calm Mind. So we have big sustain options, we have big damage boosting options, we also have big tankiness options. So I'd imagine that, yeah, if there were more stats here, that would be something. But then we look at Ultra Beast. Ultra Beast, they have a 570 in the base stat total while feeling like a legendary Pokemon, just off of like pure tankiness or pure power in some way. So Necrozma is like this weird hybrid on the lower end side between Ultra Beast and like a true legendary Pokemon, I guess. And that's kind of interesting because then we look at the Pokedex entry, reminiscent of the Ultra Beast. This life form, apparently asleep underground, is thought to have come from another world in ancient times. And then you look at Suzanne, like when I first saw Suzanne, I'm like, oh, that's obviously the big boss Ultra Beast, and it might actually be that because it has slightly more stats than the Ultra Beast and just craziness overall while being potentially related to them. So it's kind of legendary, not really, but it's still banned from VGC, so it's like an unusable Pokemon because it has some kind of relevance to legendary Pokemon. I don't know. So there we go, that's where things start getting weird, but let's see what we can do for a moveset on the Necrozma. I'm just looking into the Autotomize set first. That idea is we Autotomize, we outspeed everything, then we have a good amount of damage. We're able to run the Modest Nature with this because look at that, 79 base speed being doubled is a lot. So we're going to be pretty good. We don't need a Timid Nature or anything, so we can get the most damage out of this Pokemon as possible, and then we just have high amounts of hit point investment to make the most out of our tankiness, and then try to just max out our special attack for good amounts of damage. As for the item, after running damage calculations, which we'll look at in a bit, I don't think the Life Orb really changes much. So anything but a Life Orb would work really. Like Bright Powder, there's a chance they could miss and then things could get funny right there. Also, if you want to just run Leftovers, that's a good option. I feel like I'm putting Citrus Berry on so many different Pokemon now, but that's just like the way that the Alola region is built. That's just the way that the Sun and Moon Pokedex works, is that we have these slower Pokemon with moderate health pools and tankiness, and then above average damage. So naturally they're going to be on the field for less than 4 turns, but you still want to get a huge amount of health back so you have the most efficiency and the most effectiveness in a short amount of time. And then we have the Prism Armor ability. So this is where things got all turned upside down, because Pokemon receives 3/4 damage from super effective attacks. So it's Filter. It's just going to be taking 1.5 times damage from a super effective hit instead of 2 times damage, but that's like Solgaleo and Lunala, that they just have renamed names of existing abilities. Prevents other Pokemon from lowering this Pokemon's stats. Oh, you mean Clear Body, and then Lunala. Oh, you mean Multiscale. So this, oh, you mean Filter. So there's themes related to the legendaries, such as like Super Ultimate in-game, but its stats aren't there, and that's more related to the Ultra Beasts, which aren't true legendaries but have ridiculous stats. And then when I was looking at this, like, this is kind of all we get to do. We have a little bit of extra coverage that we can just kind of splash in. Like, oh, on this set, we could maybe run the Power Gem or maybe run the Moonlight. That if the opponent, since we have max hit point investment, there's a good chance they're not 2-hit KOing us. So if we just need to sustain, like, I would run either just Citrus Berry, or if we give up one of these coverage slots, tough call. Flash Cannon's good against fairies. Dark Pulse, it works against a lot as well. So we'd have to give up some crucial coverage. Then we splash in the Moonlight or whatever healing move that we want. And then we can also go for the leftovers. So this is just going to give us a lot more sustain. And because of the Autotomize, we're going to outspeed them, then heal them, and then just out-tank them. So we can actually have this chance to gain back enough health to kind of use 1 or 2 moves before things get dicey again. So there we go, and then with the Prism Armor, yeah, that super effective hit just isn't going to bother us, which is why I was also looking. I mentioned Calm Mind Iron Defense. There's 2 things you can do. You can either run Curse Amnesia, or you can run Calm Mind Iron Defense. Now, there are some issues here. One, you get 4 moves slotted pretty hard. That we can't run a Psychic type move because they bring in a Dark type Pokemon, then our game ends right there. But Dark Pulse is going to be the most reliable move that we have outside of Psychic, and it's still a lot of damage. Like, once you +4 on the Calm Mind, I don't think stats matter anymore. And then with the Prism Armor, yeah, you're not taking much damage off super effective hits. So I was thinking on the spread, doing something like this. Special Defense, Calm Nature, max out hit points, max out Special Defense. Mostly because we're going to be getting a lot out of our Iron Defense. Our Iron Defense is going to be +2 stages. Our Calm Mind is +1. So let's put more into the Special Defense. Now, it's kind of weird when you think about the Filter ability or Prism Armor or whatever on the Necrozma, because your super effective hits aren't that crazy. Like, it's Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, and then whatever bug type moves are running around these days, and then you'll just kind of be able to survive. Also with the Moonlight, like, I tested this strategy out. You just don't care. Like, I got 2 Calm Minds, I got an Iron Defense, I was taking like 10% of my health from a lot of other Pokemon. I got 2 Iron Defense, and then Mamoswine Icicle Crash was doing like 10%. And then Leftovers is healing up most of that. So Necrozma is going to be really good. Now this set will have to worry about Toxic, but hopefully if you can identify the Toxic threats, you can either use another Pokemon to remove that Pokemon. So if they have a tanky-ish Toxic Pokemon, get rid of it, bring in Necrozma, and then you win. Or you try to play around that setup, that if you lead with a Necrozma and they don't go into their Toxic Pokemon immediately, just start rushing those Calm Minds, and then try to deal with that tanky Pokemon, and then by then you'll be so tanky, you might be able to finish the battle before the Toxic takes you down. Like, this is actually a really fun and really powerful set. When I was first looking at Necrozma, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to make a guide and call this thing trash all day long, because it's so comparable to these other Psychic-type Pokemon that it's lacking the damage, but it has bulk. It has a very unique level of bulk compared to a lot of Pokemon, and then I can see why it's not usable, because it's just a frustrating annoyance to try to damage. Now, offensively, it's not insane, but when you play a defensive set like this, it becomes a very, very tough to deal with threat. Also, if you don't want to be, like, move slotted, could get rid of the Iron Defense and then go into something like the Psychic. That way you're going to be able to have the coverage, or the Psyshock. That way you can hit for both physical and special damage. And then the Calm Mind, and then what we do is we just flip this around. So that means we're going to go with the Bold Nature, max out hit points, max out defense, still tank up everything like a boss, and then Calm Minds will carry us through. So 2 Calm Minds, doing lots of damage, and then we're going to be good to go. Because, like, we don't need to invest on our special attack when it's already at 127 base, and then we're just adding stages to it. So let's go and look at Pokemon Showdown with some of these damage calculations right here. So, Necrozma, Pure Psychic, Modest, Mind Plate. Because, like I said, I didn't want to talk about the Life Orb, but even then, Life Orb is not a lot of damage. So that's going to be more or less just showing. Like, Life Orb, 75% chance to KO something like the Oricorio, but this is about as frail as it gets. So we have 75 on the hit points, 70 on the special defense, and we're using a Stab Modest boosted move. If this was another comparable Pokemon with the Timid, yeah, it kind of doesn't have that. So for super effective one-hit neutrals, we're not really finding those, which is why I don't think the Life Orb is worth it. We're losing too much of our health just to not really accomplish anything. And then if we just strip down into nothing right here, boom, Psychic, 2-hit KO. Guaranteed 2-hit KO by a lot. What if we go into the Garchomp? Garchomp is still a high chance to KO, but that's why if we go into the Modest Nature, even then, the Mind Plate doesn't really matter, and if we're going 2v2 on our hit points, we're tanky. We are very, very tanky against what the Garchomp is throwing us, and then, yeah, Mind Plate doesn't really change too much unless it's like a full tank, high hit point investment kind of Pokemon, which is why you can either run the Leftovers, the Citrus Berry, or the Bright Powder. If they miss a move, that's just a free kill for you. That means you're not taking as much damage and you're doing more damage back. So pretty much standard bulky Pokemon with above average bulk and about expected damage. So something like that, and mostly I just gotta keep saying, this set, this Calm Mind set, this is the way you want to play Necrozma. if you're not running this, if you're not taking those gambles on setup, you know, you do have to worry about taunt, you do have to worry about toxic, but in the end, like, this is just way too much tankiness and way too much damage, and if you're going to be running something like this, there's a lot of other utility that you can get out of different Pokemon. You know, Gardevoir, it has the chance to Mega, or it can just run Scarf and still put out good amounts of damage. The Espeon, it has all kinds of really fun stuff. It can Baton Pass, it can Calm Mind, it has the Magic Bounce ability. Azelf, well, okay, you could run maybe Necrozma over Azelf, but at least Azelf is usable in non-legendary formats, and now just kind of looking at some other things, like, how good do we survive? So, modest, Mind Plate, just maximum damage on the Necrozma is going to be overkill onto the Gengar, so yeah, super effective hits, those are still going to KO, which means we're going to be just fine right there. It kind of shows that the coverage on Necrozma is unfortunately just not there enough, that we are looking at, like, we do get the Power Gem, we do get some interesting things, but no Ice Beam, no Flamethrower. So if we had, like, if we were able to hit everything, that'd be a little more favorable of a full offensive set, because then we just hit it super effective and it dies. We're not finding that for much else, so that's a little bit of a problem right there. And going back over here, so Gengar, it's Shadow Ball, Life Orb, Timid Shadow Ball, to be expected out of a crazy Gengar, doesn't one-hit KO us. So we max out the hit points, we max out the special attack, and then we can just tank up a hit like that and throw back a hit, and then we're good to go. Also, with our 79 speed, we're still outspeeding tanks. So tanky Pokemon that would normally just not invest in the hit points, we have good 2-ish hit KO potential on them. So yeah, Necrozma just kind of rounds out really well. Like, when I saw the Shadow Ball not KOing because of the Prism Armor, it's like, okay, this Pokemon doesn't have to worry about anything. So you just kind of sit it in there, and you make it do the work. Trying to look at the moveset just one last time, but I don't see anything. Like, alright, we have Rock Polish, if you want to go into that. Physical set, it has good physical coverage, but I'm just saying 107 non-stab Earthquake on a, you know, this base speed Pokemon, 97 base speed, it's not good. So I think that there's other ways to do it. You can just run different Pokemon if you want to go physical, but overall the special set into setup is pretty solid. Also gets access to Charge Beam, so if you didn't want to run Calm Mind, but a Totemized Calm Mind just works out better than Charge Beam, so I don't know, guys. There you go. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.